going on, everybody? I'm Jerry, and I am back with a Week 3 recap. I'm going to be going over every single game from Week 3. I'm going over who the best winners were, some of the worst losers, what I saw on offense, defense, everywhere throughout the game, and just the key elements of each game. Yeah, we'll go with elements. It's not the word I was looking for, but that's perfectly fine. Starting off, we have the Giants and the 49ers. Predicted this one to be a blowout. And that was the case. Niners take it, 30-12. Eventually, it'll pop up on the screen. Here she is. So the problem with the Giants was there wasn't really a lot of downfield passes. And you can see the little notes over here. Danny Dimes was not throwing the ball downfield, had the freak interception, and the defense just kind of stunk. It's definitely tough to play against that 49ers offense. A lot of great pieces there. And it's tough to know who's going to go off every week. You got that pick right. I put CMC as unstoppable because so far this year, he should be the leading rusher unless on some fluke Mostert could have him. But CMC's been going nuts. Pretty good just because he keeps doing everything that he needs to do week in and week out, whether it be scrambling around a little bit, which we didn't see last year, and just putting the ball on the money, getting it to the playmakers. I feel like a broken record talking about the 49ers. And 49ers might be my new favorite team, especially being a Bears fan this year, because being a Bears fan does not make it very fun to watch. And every week I talk about how exciting and fun the 49ers are to watch. So who knows? We'll see what happens. I'm not one to change my loyalty, but this year with how bad the Bears are, I might have to take a year off of them because it's very stressful and painful and many rough nights being a Bears fan. But anyway, enough of my sob story. 49ers shut down everything on defense. They weren't allowing anybody to run. I believe it was just Breida, and I don't even know who the other guy is, but none of them were really doing much of anything. And Danny Dimes has not looked good either this year, neither. We went with the 49ers, easy pick, not much more to talk about there. Moving on to the next game, we got Colts-Ravens. I thought that this was going to be an easy Colts loss. Ravens would win. And so we see here, bell cow, Zach Moss. Zach Moss had 30 carries, I believe. So big showing for him. And Minshew did enough. I don't think the Ravens were prepared. They weren't prepared for Minshew. I think they were trying to prepare for Anthony Richardson because he had been looking good on the ground. But Minshew was completing passes when he needed to. Obviously, he Orlovski'd and stepped out of the back of the end zone. But the Ravens didn't do anything when they got the ball, and the Colts were able to get the ball back. That's why I put defense played when it counts, because it seemed like it was pretty much over for the Colts when they got backed up in their own territory. Minshew steps out of the end zone, and it's a safety, and you're thinking immediately that it's game over. And Colts defense shut down the Ravens, and we can see here we got the careless fumbles. Too many fumbles in that game, and it was just they weren't taking care of the ball. And then we already talked about the defense not being prepared. Obviously, that doesn't help. It shouldn't be that difficult, in my opinion, to scheme for Minshew. I do believe that he is the best backup quarterback in the league. But I put in there, too, Lamar looked really comfortable for most of the game, like standing in the pocket, and he knew when to scramble when he needed to. And he just looked like, because there was a lot of, the offseason and the pay and all that stuff, but he looked really comfortable throughout the whole game. So positive there for the Ravens. But the other thing I didn't put in there is their run game is non-existent if it's not Lamar. So need to see, I think, I don't know if somebody needs to break out. I mean, clearly they lost, so they need to do something different there. I don't think it's Lamar running more. I think he led the team in carries with 11 or something. But when you have those careless turnovers and defense isn't able to stop the Colts, it's recipe for disaster there. And the Colts end up taking the win, and I get the pick wrong. Got this one wrong too. Really thought Browns Titans. For some reason I thought Vrabel was going to do something to make it work. And, Tannehill had a really good week too, so I just kind of figured maybe they would have they'd have another good week. And the Cleveland Browns, I mean, they shut down the Titans completely. 94 total yards of offense for the Browns. I want to say Derrick Henry had 12 carries for 20 yards. Like he could not run the ball. Myles Garrett was in the backfield the entire time. I think he had 3.5 sacks and 3 TFLs or something. He just went off. I put a defensive battle because really the Browns didn't really have to do a whole lot to win this game. I mean, they ran the ball pretty well, but not great. Titans still have one of the better run defenses. It's just the Browns were able to throw the ball well and convert when they needed to, and it was the exact opposite for the Titans. But there was really good play calling. There was some like oddball like that you wouldn't expect. I think there was like a weird like end around play, and just they made the right play calls when they needed to. And I put Houston Watson in there too because Deshaun Watson really had a breakout week where he was showing how accurately he can throw the ball and how well he can be a throwing quarterback and not just handing the ball off to, well, of course, now injured Nick Chubb. You know, we got Jerome Ford in there, Kareem Hunt's back. But they didn't really need to run the ball well in this game because of how well they passed the ball. And that's where the good play calling comes in. When you go up against the number one rush defense in the league that practices against Derrick Henry every week, probably a good idea to pass the ball. That's what they did. And then that's where I put Henry was shut down, 12 carries for 20, I believe it was, which is just, I mean, that's atrocious for Henry. And I believe Tajay Spears is starting to get more and more carries. So I couldn't imagine a world where Derrick Henry isn't getting the most touches for the Titans, but that's something we might see moving forward here. And I put week 1 Tannehill because he just could not complete a pass. I believe he turned the ball over a couple times, and they couldn't convert on third down. So when you can't do that, you can't produce any offense, you're going to have 3 points, and the Browns had 27. End up getting the dub. Got another one wrong there, unfortunately. Falcons-Lions. So this one, I definitely expected to be closer. I didn't expect a 6-20, especially with how dominant the offense was. I want to say that the Lions just probably prepared for it. I put in there Ritter needs the run game because in the first 2 weeks, they got up a little bit earlier when they got their wins. They were leading to start the game, or maybe not to start, but at least by the second quarter, all they had to do was really hold that lead. And they were dominant in the run game, setting up the pass game. And in this game, Lions kind of took that away. They didn't really have a lot of success. I did put out a tweet that it was just at how unbelievable the backfield is for the Falcons because Algier had an insane truck and Bijan Robinson with his cuts still looks nasty, but the Lions were doing enough to shut it down, and that's where I put 2 one-sided because if you really need Ritter to throw the ball and that's how you need to produce offense, I don't think you can trust him yet. And then I also put the defense played well. It held the Lions to only 20 points, and the defense wasn't really put in the best situations. And I guess, I only held them to 20 points, and then on the Lions side, you got all the injuries, and I believe they had like 13 penalties or something ridiculous for like 190 yards, and they were very banged up, so a lot of injuries, but their scheme and how they planned against the Falcons, knowing that kind of need to run the ball to have success, and the Lions just having a great passing offense and running the ball at least fairly well early on, helped them win that game. Got that one right. That one definitely seemed like it would be a lot closer, but that was not the case. Saints-Packers, I was pretty confident that the Saints were going to win this one. Carr goes down, defense gives up, Winston's a backup. I mean, I just need to read those off. That's kind of a bad excuse because it still took Jordan Love hosting that comeback to win that game. Still very impressive. Like, phenomenal comeback. Loved, like, everything about it. But when Carr went down, it didn't seem like Winston was really prepared to be a quarterback. And we know that he turns the ball over and, isn't very good at converting. But he's still a 5,000-yard passer. So the fact that, when he came in, they just couldn't produce any offense, that kind of ruined the game. They're up 17-0. And, the ballsy call by LaFleur to go for 2 ends up giving them the win in Lambeau. Probably built up their confidence a lot. So I put over their offense stunk because they were at 0 points at the beginning of the fourth. I think even like 4 or 5 minutes in. I think that comeback was all like the last 11 minutes or whatever. And I put defense got bailed. So these, each side of the notes that I've put kind of go hand in hand, because to me that's what happened is, you know, defense kind of gave up on the Saints side. I feel like it should have been pretty easy with like 10, 11 minutes left for the Saints to just hold the Packers to not scoring 18 points in that amount of time. And then the defense kind of got bailed out by, the Saints still didn't have Kamara, and run game was not going well. It's kind of one-sided too with the play calling, to where that you kind of expected it, and the backups in, and Winston was not throwing the ball well, so made it a little bit easier for the Packers, and that's why I say they kind of got bailed. I think if Carr's even in just through the third quarter and they're able to get another field goal, they're probably not getting that comeback. But then I put we got to give him credit where credit's due. The amazing comeback. Some amazing catches. Like if you just watch the highlights of that game, some of the catches, I think it was Jaden Reed, and I think, did Dobbs have a nice catch? There was 2 catches in that game, like toe tap or diving, like really good play from these young receivers. Packers getting Christian Watson back, so that's something to look for. I think Aaron Jones is going to be back too, so that's going to be really interesting seeing the Packers beat a team like the Saints, who I have currently winning their division. But good win for the Packers. Got that one wrong too. A lot of wrong guesses by myself in a week that I thought was going to be pretty easy, especially this one. It seemed like Jaguars were just going to win the game, but the Jaguars have not played very well this year. So I put in there the Stroud to Tank Dell combo, because there was a couple plays where it looked buttery smooth from just the way the ball left Stroud's hand, and the passes to Dell. It seemed like they had been he'd been throwing to him for years, and so that was really cool to see. Nico Collins didn't really do much this week, but he didn't need to, because it seems like Stroud's just able to get the ball to whoever needs to get it. I put up weird stat line because they didn't actually have great offensive stats. They didn't produce a lot on offense. They didn't really do, to me, a whole lot better than the Jaguars. But the main thing was that turnover battle that I put over there by the Jaguars is, and then between the Texans and the Jaguars, it was Texans played well when it counts, and the Jaguars fail when it counts, and that's where you get that stat line where, I also couldn't find the end zone. The Jaguars would drive all the way down the field and then couldn't put it in the end zone. They got the 1 field goal, the 2 touchdowns, and if you convert on those, you're gonna have a lot better game. You're probably gonna be able to score, and like momentum is a big thing too. Like if the Jaguars could have just gained some momentum, it seems like they might be a team that needs that. It's kind of how they failed against the Chiefs too. Is the defense held the Chiefs to 17 points, which is very impressive, but the Jaguars weren't able to score 17. And in this game, they were able to score 17, but unfortunately the Texans scored 37. So they lost the turnover battle, lost the game, couldn't convert when they needed to, were failing. And C.J. Stroud's looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, just very early on, but he's looking like one of the best. Blowout of the week here, I mean, one of many that we're getting to here is the Miami Dolphins. So you got Miami Dolphins just absolutely murdered the Broncos, 70-20. Everybody on the field was getting action. You got Tyreek Hill, A-Chain, Mostert. So I put over there for the Broncos, very stoppable, because although Russ got a lot of garbage, I put garbage time because they looked like garbage. The team actually looked like garbage, and but he got a lot of completed passes in garbage time when the Dolphins were putting in their backups. So that's really honestly the main thing about that game. There's really not much to say about the Broncos, and it's honestly tough to tell what's going on just because of how bad they've played. You kind of wouldn't expect that from a Sean Payton team. And they're the favorite over the Bears right now. The Bears are at home next week, and I just had to put that in there. But the Broncos are the favorite to win after losing by 50, 70-20. They are the favorite over the Chicago Bears. Definitely a testament to how bad they are. Unbelievable offense for the Dolphins. I mean, they put in Mike White, and he was just throwing it up, and massive catches, run, pass, all of it, even with the backups. Again, there isn't really much to talk about with this game. because it was just absolute and total domination over the Broncos. The Broncos don't look good. The Dolphins look very good. The easiest game to predict. We'll just keep moving on here. Next game we had Chargers-Vikings. This game was down to the wire. The Chargers kind of got bailed out. Kirk Cousins, I want to say it was 10 snaps in the red zone that he had to score and couldn't get in there. So I put the passing battle because really the Vikings, that seems to be all they can do this year. They just got Cam Akers. Don't necessarily know if he's going to be playing yet. Madison keeps putting the ball on the ground. I put no run game for the Chargers. They had 30 rushing yards. Now, Eckler's out, but you would think they'd do a little bit better, and they didn't need to. But I put they got lucky because they had the stupid play call to go for it. And or am I flipping it now? Well, either way, the Vikings did not make any of the right decisions. You have another week of careless fumbles. I heard, I guess around their facility, they purchased things that other people were using to try to hit a tray out of their hand, like if they're getting food or like just to test them if they're carrying something to try to knock it out. TJ Hawkinson gets a massive contract. He's the highest paid tight end in the league, and early on he fumbles the ball. Can't be fumbling the ball. He dropped the touchdown towards the end, which ends up getting picked, bounced off of his hands. He's a big, strong tight end. If you're the highest paid in the league, you should probably catch it. People might expect Kelsey to catch a ball like that, so when you're getting paid well more than him, you should probably catch it. Haven't gone over all the notes I put here, but no pass rush. They don't have anybody. The Marcus Davenport, I think, has played 3 snaps since they got him, and Danielle Hunter is the pass rush, but if he doesn't produce, there is none. And unfortunately in that game he wasn't able to. And Justin Herbert's been really good at navigating the pocket, so I guess it might not be fair to say there's no pass rush because Justin Herbert's good at navigating that, but statistically they weren't able to record any real stats against Herbert, and limiting him definitely would have helped that game. Kirk stats, it was just another typical Vikings game. I couldn't really put no pass rush, but I could put Kirk stats and no defense probably for every Vikings game this year, because if they're going to win any games, they're going to win like the Lions won last year, and it's like 31-28, which if they would have scored that would have been. Or 38-35, something like that. That's what the Vikings are going to need to do to get wins seemingly this year. Brian Flores' defense seems good. They are one of the highest blitzing rate teams in the league, but meanwhile weren't able to get any pass rush. So I don't know what's going on there. Chargers take the W. I got kind of lucky on that one with that prediction. I've fully anticipated Patriots-Jets. I fully anticipated Patriots to take the dub on this one. That was correct. First thing I put. Still don't look great. Ramondre Stevenson kind of just carried the game. Mac Jones really didn't make a whole lot of plays, and their defense schemed well against the Jets, knowing that Zach Wilson is not really a good quarterback and can't really get much going, so it makes them a very one-sided team. I think they're not. Dalvin Cook has not been good by any means, but I don't think they're utilizing him like they could. So that's why I put couldn't offense, no apostrophe, and that couldn't. The next one does have an apostrophe, and then the next one doesn't have one. That's horrible grammar. But that's what I decided to do. So couldn't offense, could not rush passer, and then couldn't stop run. And like I said, Ramondre Stevenson just kind of ran all over the Jets, and Mac Jones didn't really need to do much. Mac Jones typically, he has been having some pretty good games this year, but it's normally just statistical. Like, it's not that he's been a perfectly accurate passer. He's just throwing for a lot of yards and making some big plays, and didn't really even need to do that. End up only winning 15-10. So Jets are looking really bad. I think you could see them trade for a quarterback. I know they just picked up Trevor Siemian. I don't see that being like a viable fix. I don't think Trevor Siemian is much of an upgrade from Zach Wilson, and definitely a massive downgrade from Aaron Rodgers still. So got that pick right. Starting to get a string of correct picks here, and it's mainly just because they're very easy picks, like this one. Bills absolutely dominate. on the Commanders there. Defense balled out without Von Miller. Got a lot of pressures, getting pressure all over the quarterback. Without Von Miller, you pretty much just have Ed Oliver and some other average guys there. Maybe I'm sleeping on somebody Bills fans, but thinking about big names, Ed Oliver and Von Miller are clearly your two biggest pass rushers. But the defense played well. Again, 4 interceptions. There was a fumble recovered. So phenomenal game from the Bills defense. And then that made it very, very easy to score. And I put the offense showed weakness because the Bills don't really run the ball very well this year. James Cook is not Dalvin Cook. He actually just looks a little better than Dalvin Cook this year, who doesn't look good at all. And so, the other thing is it kind of comes down to if Josh Allen is making a lot of mistakes, the game's going to, that's kind of a stupid thing to say because any quarterback that makes a lot of mistakes is obviously, it's going to hurt the team and they're going to have a better chance of losing. Duh. But in this case, Josh Allen, he's kind of a gunslinger. He likes to throw the ball. He's like a big, fast Brett Favre. And so he can make some mistakes, and I think could have seen a closer game. It was really just they kept turning the ball over. And I put defense played good for the Commanders because the defense for the Commanders was put in probably one of the shittiest situations. You got the 5 turnovers from the offense, which is where that turnover battle comes from. And then I put the Commanders have to convert. They were 1 for 9 on third downs. So 1 for 9 on third downs, 5 turnovers. What do you really expect from the defense where pretty much every possession the defense is expected to hold them in a short field? So you could argue that's why the offense showed some weaknesses, is just because statistically maybe that's all it was. But to me, I didn't think they were producing on offense like they could. I think they could be better on offense, but again, they also didn't need to. They dominated 37-3, didn't need to do much more. So I don't know if that's really a fair statement for the Bills, is that the offense showed weakness because, again, they were dominating. It's kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs-Bears game. Like the Chiefs could have put up 70 points if they left their starters in and didn't put in Blaine Gabbert and start not being disrespectful with how bad they beat the other team. So got that one right, obviously. That was just too easy. Panthers, Seahawks, I don't believe the Panthers are going to be very good this year still. I don't see, it's tough to find a winnable game for them. What team are they really better than? With the Cardinals kind of showing out and the Vikings being what would be expected to be a good team that just isn't playing well. The Bears, I guess, Panthers could probably beat, which I'm sure they would want to because they don't have their first round pick. But, other than that, you don't, and probably the Broncos too. I guess those are probably the only 2 teams to me, maybe they could beat, but they just flat out got outplayed. Dalton, though, looked really good. Andy Dalton is definitely the better quarterback option. Bryce Young doesn't appear to be ready yet, so I don't know what they're going to do moving forward. I know Bryce Young is still injured, and I would assume just for his health as a young, tiny quarterback, they would want to keep Dalton in, especially with how good he looked. Dalton didn't look that bad, and the Panthers play the Vikings this week, where, Andy Dalton and Kirk Cousins could get in a shootout. This would be a really funny, 2016, matchup where you've got Andy Dalton and Kirk Cousins are just slinging it back and forth, and so that could be a fun game. You got all the completely defeated teams playing each other, Bears, Broncos, Panthers, Vikings. But Dalton looked good, and the defense just slacked. The defense let up 37 points. I don't really know what to expect. Again, they don't have a lot of talent on that Panthers defense. Haven't really looked very good. Kenneth Walker had his breakout game where he was, just rumbling, bumbling, stumbling down the field, and he looked really good. I think he probably needed that, and hopefully we can see more from him like that moving forward. Geno played very smart, no turnovers, good safe throws, did what he needed to do, and then the run defense was really solid, which I think is a good way to shut down the Panthers because, their best receiver, who I didn't even mention, maybe I should have, is Adam Thielen, who looked really good once Andy Dalton was slinging to him, who Andy Dalton drafted him in my fantasy team, assuming, grab the wide receiver 1 for the first overall pick quarterback. That'd be a good idea. First 2 weeks, he got 5 or 6 points, didn't do anything. Then this week, he shows out. And, you have a veteran in Andy Dalton throwing to, I got this veteran receiver who was a top receiver for the Vikings year in and year out. Let's throw it to him a little bit more. And they did great. So I already dropped Adam Thielen, unfortunately. But great week from him. And then, again, their run defense played well, forcing them to throw the ball. And game was closer than I would have anticipated, but it was mainly because of Andy Dalton. So we'll see how that does moving forward, just because I think most people will expect Bryce Young to come back. This was the upset of the week very clearly. The Cowboys were looking like Super Bowl contender for sure, and people would still say that they do. But they kind of played down to their opponent in this one. We'll see the notes here. Dobbs. So I put Dobbs might be something because Josh Dobbs looked really good. He was making all the throws. He looks confident back there, and it's so fun to see that. I mean, I am not a fan of the Cardinals by any means, but it is cool to see like an underdog. You see this team of a bunch of people who aren't supposed to do it. Josh Dobbs should not be able to deal with the pass rush that the Cowboys have, and the Cardinals' offensive line hasn't really been great. And James Conner seemed like he was losing his step this year. He had a great game, clean game. Not a lot of. I don't think there was any fumbles. I don't know if there was any interceptions. Now that I'm thinking about it, but there was good play calling. The run to Rondale Moore that broke for almost like 50 yards. Like that was great. So great moves from the Cardinals, and I put Cowboys. I want to say they were close to 11, 12, 13 penalties. And they played down to the Cardinals, and front seven was missing. Micah Parsons had the one sack, and I'm sure you guys probably saw the TikTok that Micah Parsons was saying, "I'm just going to be throwing darts at Josh Dobbs," and then Josh Dobbs was like dodging the darts, so that was cool. Probably didn't have to reenact that for you. I'm sure you could visualize what somebody would look like dodging darts, but now you have that full image in your head from that, so you're welcome. But yeah, the front seven otherwise was missing. They didn't really do much, weren't able to get pressure, and weren't really able to stop the run, which is the complete opposite of what we've seen from the Cowboys. Obviously getting that one wrong, because I think everybody on the planet picked the Dallas Cowboys to win that game, and they didn't. So good on the Cardinals, but their tank is failing a little bit. But if it works out that Josh Dobbs, for some reason, is something 6 or 7 years into his NFL career, good for him. But I think people maybe expect Kyler to come back. Bears Chiefs, I'm going to make this really quick, and you'll see my notes here are just not really anything special, just because it just shows basically how bad the Bears still are. And then here we are. And then the Chiefs, I didn't even put any information. Obviously, this was like my biggest fail of the week. I was like, Chiefs have been playing down to their opponent. Maybe for some reason the Bears will just start playing well and have a good game. But Fields looked tired. There's two different types of tired that he feels or looks, and the one is just tired of trying to do it all. It seems like he wants to do it all. I think there's a lot of problems with the coaching over there, and I follow a lot of Bears pages, and a lot of Bears pages are saying that the coaches are the bigger part of the problem. And for a little bit, I didn't agree, just because I was seeing everything that Fields was doing wrong. You watch the All-22, and you see a lot of missed throws by Fields. They're missing people downfield because a lot of the fan base is complaining he doesn't throw the ball downfield, and they don't scheme up plays for him, and they don't scheme up smart route combinations, and all of that is true. But also with what Fields has given and with how talented he is, he has missed people downfield. And if the play call is good and there are people open downfield, but he doesn't see them, or maybe he doesn't trust his O-line enough to block for him, so he gets nervous and scrambles around. Those things all could be true. But I think the biggest part with the play calling that is an issue is Fields has probably the lowest ever passer rating on a 0 to 100 scale. It's 1.5 out of 100 when in the pocket, which we've known that he's a better player outside of the pocket and when he's moving, because he seems to be faster than pretty much everybody on the field. Excuse me. And so with that being said, if you're not calling plays where there's rollouts or something to throw off the defense, maybe a play action rollout would be really cool to see, because the Bears are supposed to be the good running team. Imagine you fake the handoff and then your really fast quarterback rolls out, and if everybody bites on the fake, probably has a lot of room to run, or maybe there's some people open downfield that he can throw to. Not seeing enough of that. So the coaching does stink, and I would say, like, if on a percentage scale, I would probably say the problem is probably like 50% coaching, probably like 35% Fields. I would say probably 10% offensive line, 5% receivers, just because there have been plays where like 3 receivers ran the same exact route. I saw a bunch of those clips, and like, or a bunch of the same clip. It wasn't multiple plays that was happening, but like that's got to be somebody. That's got to be some miscommunication, unless they really did draw up a play where there's 3 wide receivers in the same exact spot. But the offensive line really hasn't been bad. Fields has had a pretty clean pocket. I still don't think he trusts his offensive line, but he really did have a clean pocket for a lot of that game, and he really just takes too long to throw the ball. He isn't well past his first read, and it just didn't look good for him. So this is going to be a big test for the Bears this week, where you got the Broncos, who also really haven't looked good in any regard. Big thing for me, especially being a Bears fan, is offense. I just want to see some offense. The offense has been so bad. So if I could just see some offense being produced by the Chicago Bears, that would make me real happy. So I hope they can do that. There's nothing important on the Chiefs side. I put it's a homecoming game because that's what it was. When you ask your crush to see a game, it's usually the game where you're playing a shit team because you want them to see you do good. Blaine Gabbert, I put him in because Blaine Gabbert played in an NFL football game. Probably shouldn't, but he's the backup there. Threw 2 picks to Jack Sanborn and some other no-name DB. So props to Jack Sanborn trying to run back that pick. Didn't really look like a running back, but he took it back pretty far. And I'm a big Jack Sanborn fan, and there's really not much to get happy about for Bears fans. And then the biggest story of it all was Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and Taylor Swift bumping chests, banging glass, and walking out on Jared Payton's Twitter, X. So, again, nothing really to learn from the Chiefs there. They just dominated one of the worst teams in the NFL. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I'm not happy about it. Next up, we had the Steelers and the Raiders. I picked the Steelers to win. Definitely looked like that the Raiders could have won. Offense still looks really bad for the Steelers. Defense kind of wins the game for them week in and week out. And I put, is Pickett not the answer? Because the offense is ran through the quarterback. I don't think he has the best opportunity with the running game that's going on. Jaylen Warren really does look like the better running back between him and Najee Harris, which is sad because I kind of assumed Najee Harris would be the better running back there, but he just doesn't run hard for his size and his skill. It just doesn't seem like he runs the ball very hard. So I don't know what they need to fix there, but if they can get the run game going and make it a little easier, I still think Pickett might not be the answer over there. They beat the Raiders, but just with seeing him play, and like I've seen Pickens get kind of Pickett. That's tough to say with Pickett, Pickens, and picked. Pickens being mad at Pickett and being mad, just little upset. He's not getting the ball more, and I see him open downfield, and so that makes it very difficult. Obviously, you still don't have Deontay Johnson. I believe Allen Robinson was injured. He might have come out in that game. I don't remember the exact, what happened there. But Jimmy G sold. Their defense did not play well. And I put no defense because Max Crosby is really the only highlight, obviously, of the whatever's going on, unfortunately, for Chandler Jones, which really stinks. But Jimmy G basically just threw the ball to Davante Adams, and the Steelers were able to slow that down. They didn't really have anywhere else to go. I still don't think they give the ball to Josh Jacobs enough. He's a leading rusher last year, and he's getting like 15 touches, 14, 15. Meanwhile, Zach Moss got 30. Zach Moss was a third string running back coming into the season, and he got 30 touches and won the game against the Ravens, whereas the Raiders, one of their most talented people on offense, arguably other than Davante Adams, is Josh Jacobs. You could say, different positions, but you could say they're probably pretty close as far as talent for their position. They're just not giving him the ball. They gave Davante Adams the ball, and when that got shut down, the offense shut down. Jimmy G threw a couple picks, 3 picks, I think, and kind of sold the game for him. So I know the fan base has been calling for Aiden O'Connell. It seems like Brian Hoyer is going to play next week. So if you have Davante Adams in fantasy, I don't know if I would suggest. I mean, probably still playing because he's going to be the main target, but I don't know how that's going to work. I'm really hoping Josh Jacobs can do well for my fantasy team because you've got likely Brian Hoyer or a rookie quarterback playing. But either way, Steelers take the dub over the Raiders, and kind of not what I expected. I expected, Raiders to have a better fighting chance, but and it was a close game still. It was just didn't really end how I thought it would. Eagles Bucks. I'm gonna make this one quick too. DeAndre Swift has had an insane past 2 weeks. On the level of Mostert for these past 2 weeks too. One in every way. Trenches, receivers, name it. The Eagles just played better in every regard. Bruh. AJ Brown, I put he's back because he was complaining last week about not getting touches, or he claimed that he wasn't, but I think we all know that AJ Brown was complaining about his touches, and he got like 14 targets this week and had a phenomenal week. Even Devontae Smith, I think, had a couple nice catches. And then again, Swift just played super well. And when you can't shut down that run, especially with a guy like Vita Vea, you're going to struggle. And their offense struggled. Baker Mayfield, I'm surprised he's been doing as well as he had with not really having much of a running game at all. And Rachaad White. And this is another team I mentioned earlier. The Falcons had kind of been up early in a couple of their games, or in at least one of their games. But the Buccaneers, going into this game, had never been losing a game by more than 7 points. So literally the Buccaneers, since the season started, have always been within 7 points of their opponent, one score, from winning the game. And in this game, in the second quarter, they were down 10, I think with like 4 minutes left or something, and they just couldn't play from behind because their run game isn't really very special where you can do anything to throw off the defense. The defense just kind of knows that they're going to pass, and the Eagles have good DBs. So with all that being said, Buccaneers weren't able to come back from behind, and the Eagles got an easy dub. Again, I think we expected it. Rams-Bengals, I expected this one to be close. Not this close. Bengals end up taking the dub, and I put Stafford struggle just because he was kind of locked in on Puka Nacua. He was kind of doing the Cooper Kupp thing last year where you knew Cooper Kupp was going to get 10, 15 targets, and they were just kind of hoping that nobody could stop it, and in this case they could. They didn't really run the ball very much with Kyren Williams, when he ran the ball, he wasn't very efficient this week, but last week he was very efficient, and I want to say he only had like 12 or 13 touches, and I guess maybe they were playing from behind a decent amount, but I still don't think that it was a bright idea, especially when the passing game was kind of getting shut down and Stafford was struggling. I think Kyren Williams might have been able to unlock another element of that game and give him the win. But I put kicking game because there was only 2 touchdowns scored in this 16-19 game. And then the Rams couldn't get pressure on Burrow, which would have been a great thing to do with somebody playing through a calf injury. I put concern for Burrow, and I didn't capitalize the B. I guess I'm editing. I'm verbally editing this whole video. Concern for Burrow because he didn't really play very well. He kind of just threw the ball to Jamar Chase, and it sounds like it's going to be a question every week if he's even going to play. So I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, obviously he played this week, and he's obviously going to continue to heal week in and week out, but that's going to be tough moving forward, especially if they end up against a team with, a decent pass rush. That's definitely going to be a concern. Then I put bad run game. I put that every week for the Bengals. I don't know why they don't run the ball more. They have Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is still, to me, a good running back. I don't know if there's something they see where they're like, no, we're not going to run the ball. We have Jamar Chase, we have T. Higgins, we have Tyler Boyd, we have Joe Burrow. Why would we run the ball? But you'll see coming up here in one of my next images here that the team that runs the ball more efficiently usually wins the game so far this season, which you wouldn't expect to be true in 2023. So I'll move on to that because I was talking about it. First, I'm going to talk about my record. 10-6 again this week. Definitely again. I made some questionable picks. Picked the Bears against the Chiefs. Lost the Cowboys Cardinals, which is kind of a fluke. And there was some choices where I definitely said, thought this team's going to win. Going to pick this one for this reason. And so I think with, I mentioned that if I'm basing a game off if there's an injury or if somebody plays, I'm not switching it back. If I were to do a switch, I believe I would have been 12-4 this week, which would have been real nice, but that was not the case, putting me at 28-20 so far. Looking worse than so I'm going to move right over to this better rushing team record. So I'll go to the fun facts first because that's what I've decided and it's my video, so I can do what I want. In 13 to 16 games this week, the team with the more efficient run game won the game. And so that was so in every single game, I basically judged it basically just on rushing yards and carries, yards per carry and whatnot. And I looked through, and in 13 out of the 16 games, the better team won. And that also doesn't include, I want to say, so I did the 36-12. That 36-12 is for the whole season. So far, the team with the better run game, which you can argue like, oh, sure, if they're going to have more run stats because if they take the lead early, they're going to run the ball a lot. The other team's going to have to pass the ball. So that's going to, but still, 36-12 is nuts. And there was a game, I want to say it was last week. I can't remember it now, but there was a game where the teams had 23 carries by, combined and 122 rushing yards for both teams. They were completely even. And I didn't include that one because there wasn't necessarily a better team. So could have been 37-11. But I'll go through these, on the left. Didn't change the color of Andy Dalton, I think there. Was that a mistake on my part? Yeah. Yep, I should have changed the color for Andy Dalton because we've got a sea of blue and orange here. And it's not because of the Chicago Bears. Yeah, one of them it is, actually. But Justin Herbert was 40 for 47 with 405 yards. Absolutely unbelievable week. Dalton was 34 for 58. A lot of passing in that game. Couldn't run the ball well, so that's what's going to happen. Oh, you know what? Andy Dalton's on the Panthers. That blue looks just fine. Tua Tagovailoa, unbelievable passer rating, 155. I want to say he was up in the high 300s. Oh, did I put the wrong? Did he have 400? I don't think he did. But he absolutely went nuts. Same with Achane, same with Mostert, didn't make the list. Zach Moss, I mentioned earlier, had 30 carries. Devon Achane, or Devon, I think some people are saying, he had 203 yards on 18 carries, which is nuts. And both running backs, Mostert and Achane, both had 4 total touchdowns, which I would like to know the last time that happened because it's got to be in like the 40s or the 50s because that shit doesn't happen. Keenan Allen, 18 receptions, 215 yards, and a passing touchdown. Unbelievable week for Keenan Allen. Again, we got to see a blue here with the Chargers, the Panthers, the Bills, the Dolphins, and then the one stat for the Bears, when you spend a lot of time on defense, you'll end up getting a lot of tackles, and TJ Edwards did that with 17. Again, sometimes I don't even feel like putting that stat in here because that really doesn't do anything for me. It's like, great, he got 17 tackles. Everything else seems like it's kind of valuable. Doesn't really seem very valuable, but it is a notable stat, so we're going to put that in there. And then sacks and TFLs, Myles Garrett dominated, 3.5 sacks, 3 TFLs. Nasty rip move on the outside, very classic old school rip move that just is not guardable, supposedly. Most offensive yard was the Dolphins, 726. This is the biggest spread of the whole year. I'm just going to let you know now that some team having 726 offensive yards and the Browns holding the Titans to 94 yards is absolutely going to be the biggest spread. I mean, it's crazy that the Titans put up 94 yards of offense and the Dolphins put up 726 in the same week. And I don't believe the Titans to be a bad team by any means. So, just bad when Tannehill doesn't know how to throw the ball. And then the Bills had the 5 takeaways against the Commanders, the four interceptions, and then the fumbles. So we got over here, C.J. Stroud. Fun fact: C.J. Stroud is the only quarterback to throw for 900 yards, 4 touchdowns, and oints, or 0 interceptions. Oints kind of sounds like how a pig would speak in England. I think of like oint oint, like gonna go play in me mud. Oint, oint, maybe? I don't know. Probably not. Maybe if there's somebody from England that watches this video that can tell me if pigs go oint over there instead of oink. First person in history to do that. Only person. 900 yards, 4 touchdowns, and oints. Matt Gay set a record for 50-yard field goals in a game with four 50-yard field goals. Hope you had him in fantasy. That was 24 points for Matt Gay. Phenomenal week. And then, again, I already read this stat off, but 13 to 16 games, that had the more efficient run game won the game. So keep that in mind. Again, doesn't really hold completely true, and the anomalies so far have been the Titans and the Bears, because the Titans and the Bears are usually, I think in 2 of the weeks, have been one of the teams each that have had a better run game, lost the game, because the Bears stink, but can run the ball well. Not even run the ball well, but they just run the ball more. And then same with the Titans, is the Titans have found that they can't pass the ball. So therefore you end up running and still lose a game. But something to keep in mind, the team, like especially the Browns, like the Browns run the ball really well, and they've won some games. And so something to look out for moving forward if you're making bets. If you think that one team is significantly better at running the ball, obviously there can be flukes. There can be a fluke where team doesn't run the ball well, but 36-12 is a pretty good record. And again, there was a tie that I didn't include, and there was another one that was really close where one team had like a little bit more yards, but their average per carry was a little lower. And I watched highlights of both teams, and it looked like the other team was running the ball better, so I didn't put them on there. So we're looking at potentially 38-10 if you basically want to only go off of stats, that they're having the better rushing experience in the game for the record. So yeah, that's the leaders. That's the fun facts for the week. Thank you for watching. And I did a picks video for week 4 already. I've been having some problems with this video in particular uploading, so you're probably seeing it after the picks. In a perfect world, I'd like to do a recap of the week and then follow that up with the picks, but I've been having problems with it uploading. So in this case, you're probably seeing the recap for the previous week after the picks for the following week. I'm going to try to figure that out and try to fix that. But for right now, I haven't been able to fix it. So unfortunately, you're just going to have to see the recap after. But yeah, I'm going to try to get some more videos out. I want to do some trades. I have some ideas for some mid-season trades that could happen and that I think should happen. It's not like any insider information from Twitter. There's no talk, I think, of these between anybody that matters. But I think that some teams will have a nice fit. So check out that video when that comes out. And then check out my picks videos. I've got a lot of shorts. I've got TikTok. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.